Quick note before we start. This content is for educational purposes only. We are not promoting the use or purchase of any substances. Our goal is to explain science, regulation, and history. Always follow the laws in your country and consult licensed professionals for any health related questions.
Cool.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Eywa Academy. So today I'm really happy to have Nick Kadysh. Nick Kadysh is an amazing person inside the psychedelics industry and also a great advisor at Eywa. So welcome, Nick.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here.
I'm really happy too because we haven't had any episode yet on MDMA and also people from the side of business explaining the real business behind
Mhm.
psychedelics. So I think that your profile is great for this kind of interview. So welcome. I'd like you to introduce yourself first so that the people can know who you are and what you've done.
Sure.
So if you want, you can start.
Sure, of course. So I'm Nick. I'm the founding CEO of PharmAla Biotech. I am an advisor to Eywa, have been since the beginning. I don't even remember where you and I met. It was at some conference somewhere,
Amsterdam,
Amsterdam. Yes.
at the EMA.
Yeah, yeah. And it was before you even founded Eywa. Like Eywa was still just like an idea at the time.
Yeah.
I'm as I said, I'm the CEO of PharmAla. PharmAla is an MDMA company. I think fair to say right now we are the world's leading supplier of MDMA for clinical use. And clinical use meaning both to clinical trials, but also to like doctors and patients. I don't make any claims to being the best researcher in MDMA. I think MAPS / Resilient / Lycos, like they take the sort of the trophy on that. But we focus on really two things. We focus on the manufacture of MDMA and actual supply. So we have supply chain. We have 33 clinical trials that we supply all over the world, with more coming on board every day. We have supply chain into Australia, which is the world's biggest commercial market, the United States, Canada, Europe, basically wherever there's research or patient treatments being done with MDMA, we are present there. And then the other thing that we do is we develop novel analogs of MDMA, meaning new patented drugs that improve on MDMA or change MDMA's effects. We always look for improved safety profiles, but also we look for unique effects. Ultimately, one of the sort of the standby things that we always look for in all of our new drugs is this pro-social effect. So MDMA is super unique in that it has this like very powerful feeling of social connection and love, and this is critical in our view for treating a whole host of psychiatric disorders and neurological disorders, not just psychiatry. But basically, if I had to distill it down, like I don't buy this idea that like that medicine has to be unpleasant. This is a very Western medicine thing that like you have to take your medicine in that like that literally means like you have to take a thing that's going to make you feel like crap in order to make you feel better later. And I think with psychiatry, especially, that's just not true. Like you have to make people feel like comfortable and safe and good in order to heal them. And it's the only way to do it. So that's us.
Amazing. And well, my first question was going to be why MDMA? You partially answered the question already, but if you can dive deeper in why MDMA and what would you tell someone that thinks about MDMA as a dangerous substance?
Yeah, for sure. So look, I'll take them one at a time. Why MDMA was really, really simple, honestly. It was because nobody else was really doing it. And look, everyone who works for PharmAla has like a sort of a personal connection to either the drug or the indication of post-traumatic stress. Like we all have like either somebody who has like mental illness in their family or something like that. So that's why MDMA. And by the way, we started with the idea of we were just going to do drug discovery. It was just going to be like the novel drugs. However, what ended up happening was two things. One is we realized like we hit the sort of 2022 and like the bubble burst for psychedelics. And the company was only a couple of years old. And we're like, oh crap, like we can't raise money anymore. Like nobody's going to give us cash. So that was a real problem. And two, we started getting all these inbound, this inbound interest from researchers saying, hey, it's great that you have these novel molecules, but we really need MDMA. We really need it for research. And so we said, okay, look, if there's demand, we'll make it. And then, sorry, what was the second part of the question?
The second part of the question was, what would you tell someone that says this drug
that is dangerous
and with no therapeutic potential?
So I love this question because, so imagine, so we do drug discovery completely backwards. It is so illogical how we do it. Okay, so I will describe for you two drugs, right? One is a completely new molecule that has never gone into a human being before, that has unknown effects, that is like completely, it's just like, it's a black box, right? We have no earthly clue what this thing does to the human body. We can test, like we can put it into rodents and like dogs or pigs or whatever, but human beings have never taken this thing. And biology, as we all acknowledge, is like very complicated, and you really can't predict it. On the other hand, you have a drug that has been taken by maybe billions of people in like sweaty nightclubs while they're drinking. It was made illegally by like a guy in a bathtub, and I can count on sort of like on my fingers the number of actual deaths that has happened in the last, let's say, 10 years, right? Under those conditions. I would say that second drug, that's a really safe drug, right? Now, the reason people view it as dangerous is because it is a drug of abuse. Like people do abuse it in the sweaty nightclubs. And of course, like we are taught that anything that is a controlled substance must by definition be dangerous. But we also know in our heart, like we know that this isn't true because like cannabis is obviously super safe. Unless you have like, psychosis is a thing. There are real risks, but like not more risky than alcohol, and that's a controlled substance in most countries. Not Canada. I'm Canadian. We have cannabis. But I think we often confuse in our mind the difference between like a controlled substance is a function of like laws and regulations and people's opinions on what people should and shouldn't do. It's a moral judgment. Inherently, it's a moral judgment. Like we don't think that in proper society you should be able to take this drug recreationally, right? That's a controlled substance. That has nothing to do with the drug's actual safety. And so, like, if you ask me, like, is it like on its face, right? Professor David Nutt, who's like a really famous guy who's done tons of work in this space. He once published a report in the UK that MDMA is safer than horseback riding. And of course, like the Home Secretary called him and was like, you can't say that. You can't say it. And he's like, but that's what the data shows, right? That is the reality. So I am fine to offer a product that is safer than horseback riding. I'm cool with that. Good product.
I'm taking notes of that quote. It's amazing. Great. Yes. And so how this started in Canada? Like, I would like to know a little bit of why Canada has a lot of progress in terms of drugs, in terms of drug discovery, and how can you compare this to Australia today? What are the differences between both locations and how psychedelics are implemented?
Yeah. Canada, so there's this reputation of Canada as being fertile ground for like controlled substances development. I think this largely stems from medical cannabis and then recreational cannabis getting approved, which because Canada was sort of the first Western democracy to move in this direction of recreational cannabis, it generated a lot of wealth, like just money, right? So tons of companies became the first LPs, the first licensed producers. They were all publicly traded. Their stocks went completely crazy. It generated a crazy amount of money for everyone in this for like first, second, and third wave of cannabis cultivation, stemming back to like the early 2000s when the medical marijuana system sort of came into being. And that is why psychedelics, like a lot of psychedelic companies started in Canada. One was we already had a lot of the legal and regulatory regimes to, like in the US, for example, if you just want to raise money in the public markets to do a controlled substances business, really tough. You're not going to get banking support. Like it's really, really challenging. In Canada, that wasn't a problem anymore. It was just fine. Like we had done all the work, everything was fine. And also so much money because all of these cannabis guys were like ready to invest. And it looked so similar, especially, I got to say, like, especially psilocybin, because they were like, I'm in the business of growing a thing that gets you high. And here is another thing you grow that gets you high. And I don't think they thought about it more than that. Of course, completely different industry, like totally different. And I published something 5 years ago. I published an article in the newspaper that was like, do not think of these things as the same thing. They're different. They should be approached differently, but no one listens. So it's fine.
I normally get that comparisons. Like whenever I'm talking to an investor, it's like, oh, is this going to be like the marijuana industry? Because this bursted at some time and then everything became a commodity.
Yes. And look, I think any not any unpatented drug eventually does become a commodity, right? That is true. However, there are other elements of this, right? So like when you talk about like the reason cannabis became a commodity, at least in part, was because it became recreational. It became a consumer product. What's the number one thing consumers care about in the absence of like a demonstrable difference in quality? Price. They care about price, right? Now, if it's a medical product, price is less of a factor. And I can prove that to you because in Australia, which only has medical cannabis, companies are profitable. And in Canada, where we have recreational cannabis, companies are not profitable. So there is a difference, right? And anyone who tries to simplify it more than that is not doing you or themselves any favors.
In this in terms of like, well, the question comparing Canada to Australia, would you say like Australia is a better model to follow?
Yes. I don't know enough about cannabis. I was never in the cannabis industry, so other than that one comment on medical price versus recreational price, I don't have much to add. But on psychedelics, yes, absolutely. In Australia, the model is the same as how we do healthcare. Like, think about any other facet of healthcare. How does it work? Well, we have a self-regulating body called doctors, right? And doctors are imbued with the power to make medical decisions on behalf of their patients. And we trust them to do this. We trust but verify. Like, but they have like, there's a college of surgeons and a college of psychiatrists. And if you're a bad psychiatrist, we think of you as like a highly like organized professional group that has their own mechanisms. Like if you abuse a patient and you get caught doing it, maybe we send you to jail. But also we leave it to the doctors to take your license, right? Like we don't decide that like in court. The College of Surgeons will decide that amongst themselves. We allow them, we delegate the authority to them. In Australia, they've structured a regulatory system where they said, okay, College of Psychiatrists, you decide who can prescribe psilocybin, you decide who can prescribe MDMA. And once you've decided, that person is an authorized prescriber, right? That is the title. And then they do their work like any doctor does in the medical system. And if they do something wrong, we will deal with that as it comes through the systems that we already have in place, right? That to me is smart because that is how the medical system works. In Canada, we don't do that. In Canada, what happens is a doctor sends an application to our regulator, Health Canada, begging, please, 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 like my patient really, really needs this drug. It goes to a bureaucrat in Ottawa, our nation's capital, who has no medical training whatsoever, who analyzes this through like some sort of bureaucratic lens, and after 11 months sends an answer to the doctor 70% of the time. 11 months. It wasn't like this at the beginning. It was very quick turnaround at the beginning, but then it's gotten slower and worse and slower and worse. And like that's not how the medical system needs to work. That's bad.
And now that Germany and Czech Republic are opening markets, is it going to look more like Canada or more like Australia?
I don't know. There's no reason why you can't have a system like Canada's that does work. Like Switzerland has a very similar model where it's individual patient approval. We call these named patient approvals, special access, expanded access.
Mm-hmm.
But in Switzerland, again, like they trust their doctors. And so when they send an application in, it usually gets approved like automatically within like 3 days. Like it's very quick.
Okay. So it would be like in the middle. You still have to ask for permission, but the system works faster.
It's not just faster. It's like you can't put a person between a doctor and a patient. Like there
Okay.
shouldn't be somebody in between those people, right?
Yeah,
And
I
and
get it.
and so as soon as you remove that bureaucrat in between the doctor and the patient, what ends up happening is like it's more than just the doctor patient relationship, because let's say I'm a psychiatrist, right? And I've gotten this authorized prescriber designation. What am I going to do next? Well, now I can say, look, now I know I can prescribe, right? So I can like go out and raise $1 million of debt financing and open my own clinic, because I know I can do this one thing that not a lot of people can do. I can prescribe psilocybin, for instance. And then I can hire like a clinical psychologist and a psychotherapist to help me with the workload. So now you don't just have a doctor. Now you have a business, you have a clinic,
Mm,
and they're a specialized clinic. One of the things that we noticed in Canada is after a while, so you had like doctors who submitted like 3 or 4 applications to this special access scheme. And then on their fifth one, the regulator would come back and say, you've done too many of these. We're not going to authorize you to do any more.
mm.
Which is like, it's insane. That's like if you're like, I'm a liver surgeon. I'm the best liver surgeon in the world. And somebody shows up one day and like, nah, you got to do brains now. You've done too many livers. You can't do this anymore. Like it's crazy. It's just
It's
on the
crazy.
face of it, it's crazy. Yeah.
It's crazy. I think that still talks about a lot of like stigma behind the medicine, like
Mm-hmm.
um, lack of credibility or something
Mm-hmm.
like that.
But it's not lack of credibility. It's political. It's political. Just a risk avoidance. That's all it is.
Yeah. And like coming more from the side of a regulatory and public affairs, how was it for you to fund a biotech business from scratch
This is the
on
worst.
illegal drugs?
Um, okay, how can I put this in a way that? Okay, so first thing I will say is we have only ever raised $5 million Canadian ever in our entire history as a company. And like, if you follow the company, we just closed a transaction that's worth like $4 million Canadian. So like, we're very good at like spending money wisely, in my opinion, personal.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's hard. It's hard raising money for a biotech. And biotech's like, we're a weird biotech because we've gone directly into like manufacturing and revenue
Mm-hmm.
generating activities. But it's a very strange thing when you have like all these big biotech companies who, like the deal is raise 300 to 500 million dollars, and your reward after you do some very complicated, very difficult regulatory and science is you get to start selling a product. That's
Mm.
a weird business. No other business works that way. Even medical device, which I've worked in medical devices before, medical devices, okay, you raise like 20 to $40 million, maybe $50 million.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a super complicated device, maybe you have to spend like 100, 200 million, but you still get to commercialize it much, much faster than a drug. Drugs are hard
Drugs are
industry.
super hard. So speaking about drugs and about novel drugs,
Mhm.
do you want to tell us more about your latest transaction with
Yeah,
Jupiter
yeah,
Pharma? This was like a whole transaction of $100 million on a
yes,
psychedelic again. So
yes.
tell us a little bit more about that, and congrats.
Although, like, look, if you ask I love Josh Hardman at Psychedelic Alpha,
Yeah.
but like he had this like he posted this tweet. He's just like, headline $100 million upfront payment, $3.5 million. Like, yes, the total deal value is $100 million. A lot of it is like development payments, subsequent events. Like, we may never see the full economic value. However, it's also a very limited contract. So what we have is we have a novel patented drug called ALA02. It is basically MDMA 2.0. Like it's a safer and more efficacious version of MDMA that we developed in house. And we outlicensed the United States rights, just the US rights, to a company called Jupiter Neuroscience. Jupiter's a NASDAQ listed pubco. And so, from our perspective, it's a great deal because developing stuff in the United States is so difficult and so expensive. We only sold the US rights. 100 million total deal value for just one country, in my opinion, it's a nice amount. It's a reasonable amount.
Of course.
Yeah, and
You
then
have the rest of the world to license it.
And we have the rest of the world, exactly. And so we continue to work. And the other thing that not a lot of people have noticed actually in the deal, which I'm actually very happy about, is we are actually continuing to be the manufacturer for Jupiter. So like Jupiter does these clinical trials. They buy the materials from us, right? And so we announced last month that we actually we've already made the drug. It's ready to go. Like we just got to package it up into capsules. And so before the end of the year, we're going to have like a lot of other sort of deal stuff related to this that we announced. But yeah, look, I'm very proud of the team. It was a lot of work to get it over the line. I won't name the person, but like I got a call from a banker that I work with at JP Morgan earlier today, because the deal closed yesterday. I got a call from him today and he's just like, mea culpa. I didn't think you were actually going to do this. So, yep, I was wrong. Good job. Well done.
Totally. More conservative people don't think that this will move forward.
No.
I have just 3 more questions.
Sure.
For you, but super short questions. If you were to start PharmAla again today, what would you have done like differently? Or where do you think you spend so much time and you would say right now, like, no, I wouldn't spend time on this. I would go straight on this.
There aren't a lot of things that I would do differently. I would not have taken the company public. I wouldn't. Going public sucks. Don't do it. Especially like you have to once you're a certain size, sure, but it's really like I realized I didn't have the experience that I needed to be a public market CEO, despite the fact that we had like really good times. Like 2023, we were the #1 growth stock in Canada. Like wow. It was really great. But I didn't know how to take advantage of it. Like I didn't know what I didn't know, and that's not good. So I wouldn't have taken it public, knowing what I know. Other than that, like the products we made, no, I wouldn't change a thing. Like I believe in the drugs. I believe in the molecules. I believe that we're really helping people. If you want, I'll leave this story to the end, but I'll tell you the story of like the first guy to get treated in Canada, because it's a really good story. Yeah.
Yes, of course. I really want to hear that.
Yeah.
My following question was about something you said a little bit about industry, believing in the molecule. So lately, Eli Lilly announced they bought a psychedelic company for 3.8 billion. Do you think this is actually because they also believe in the molecules? They also believe it's going to be part of the mental health treatments in the near future. How do you see this for the industry? And also, like, do you think this will be normal 10 years from now, like going to a clinic and getting psychedelic assisted therapy for depression, let's say?
Yeah, absolutely. Because so a couple of things. One is like people already go and get like ketamine injections, ketamine, nasal ketamine, intravenous ketamine, ketamine lozenges. We talked about danger earlier. Like ketamine's a dangerous drug. Like it is. It's addictive. The side effects to ketamine addiction are horrific. It crystallizes. I mean, this might be too much information.
And you have to take it more often than psilocybin.
You have to take it more often. Yeah. So for sure. And so like the one thing that I've learned in the Australian experience is like 2023 they approved. In 2025 we got insurance reimbursement from private and public insurance companies. And the first dose only happened in 2024. So like in less than 2 years, basically, we got insurance reimbursement in Australia. Like that, I think very, very likely that this becomes a standard treatment. And there's lots of like, I can show you lots of evidence for why that is, but I'll just say this: there's no time in history ever where you have a drug that gets approved for use, as it has been in Australia, in a Western sort of modern democratic country like this, and then it doesn't continue to get approved everywhere else, unless you have like something horrific happens and like it's been 3 years, nothing has happened, it's good, it works, etc. So yes, this will become a thing. The other thing I will say though is that I don't think that I'm surprised that Atai-Beckley settled for 3.8, of which I think over $1 billion was sort of contingent on sort of results. Basically, with like between Atai and Beckley, it like Atai-Beckley has raised something like just under $1 billion all in their history. And so if you look at the sort of the value that was created, 3x is great, but it's not game changing, it's not world beating, versus something like Transcend Therapeutics, which got bought by Otsuka, and Otsuka paid like nearly $1 billion for them, and they've only raised like, I don't know, 90 million or something. So like you can get you get much better returns in sort of other deals. But yeah, like Lilly jumping in is important. AbbVie jumping in is important. All of this tells you that like it's happening.
Yeah. Wow. Nice future ahead. And well, do you want to close with your story?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay. 100%. Yes. Love it. Okay. So, so the story is like, this is why I wouldn't do anything differently. In a nutshell, is basically, so Canada approves this special approval scheme. We are the only company that supplies MDMA into it. The first guy gets approved. We send him the stuff that we send the doctor, the MDMA, they do the thing. And so they do the first therapy session, and then the guy reaches out. He's like, I gotta tell you how it went. And as you probably know, like as a manufacturer, you don't want to know. Like you're not supposed to speak to patients. Everything that you learn from a patient has to be like held in the strictest confidence and blah blah. And so I was killing myself. I was like, should I speak to him? Should I not? I don't know. But ultimately, he was the first guy to ever get treated. So I said, okay, I have to talk to this guy. And we get on the phone. This guy's a combat veteran. He did several tours in Afghanistan for the Canadian military. And basically we got on the phone, and the first thing that this guy said was, you gave me back a piece of my soul that I thought was gone forever. And like, I'm not all the way better now, but I'm so much better than I was. And I know, like, I can sort of like, I can see myself getting even better now. And I have 2 more sessions, and I know it's going to be good for me. And I know I'm going to get better. And I was like, man, okay, like good enough. If all I'm doing is giving people back a piece of their souls, like I'm cool with that. That's a good way to spend my day. I'm happy. Fine by me.
This is an amazing story. This is huge. Yeah. And now do you still know about the patients that are treated?
No, I don't want to know. No, look, of course, I would love nothing more than to know, and I try to instill in the team at PharmAla, like you gotta keep patients like centered in your mind. Like we spend so much time doing like manufacturing, and it's hard, and like research, and it's hard, and all of these things, and raising capital, and it's also hard. And then you kind of, because it's all so hard, and you get lost in the day to day, you forget like, why are we even doing this? But like that's what we're doing it for. We're doing it for these people. It's that's the end goal. Like it's the patient. Yeah. And so that's why we structured our company to just like go into manufacturing, sell where we can, do the clinical trials where we can. Because like ultimately it is about doing science, and it is about raising money. It is manufacturing good drug, but only if it gets to patients and you help people. That's what it's all about ultimately. So that's my view.
Yes, definitely. Sometimes you get so like inside your routine, and someone comes and says like, this is amazing what you're doing, and thank you, I really want to be part of, like, even some of our angel investors, that they are like, I know someone that consumes psilocybin and it changed their life completely, and I really want this to be mainstream someday. but you sometimes forget about it. So I think it's nice to remember why we do these things, and how important can be for someone that is chronically suffering, like every
Mhm.
day of their life. So
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. That's it. I agree.
that's it.
Yeah.
Nick, thank you very much
My
for being
pleasure.
here, just spending a little bit of
My
your
pleasure.
time with us. And well, see you super soon.
See you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.